Hello and you're very welcome to Behind the Story. I'm David. This is our first ever live podcast, so we're all very excited. What could possibly go wrong? You may be watching us on the RT News channel on television. You can also catch us live on the RT channels on YouTube and on TikTok. We're here backstage at the primetime presidential debate. Joining me, of course, Katie and Fran, and also our special guest, no expense spared. We're joined by Professor Gary Murphy of the School of Law and Government in DCU. Hello.
Good to be here, David, especially for the first live podcast.
I know, history in the making. It's very exciting. I don't know how they're going to edit out all Katie's swearing. But anyway, we shall hope for the best. Gary, we've just watched the debate. It went on for an hour and 10 minutes in or about. What are your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts are that it was a little bit on the dull side, and I'm not persuaded that anybody will have changed their mind if their mind is made up. If their mind isn't made up, I'm not so sure it will have persuaded them even perhaps to go to the ballot box on Friday. We learned very little new from either candidate. Catherine Connolly has not resiled one bit from any of her positions she's taken since July in this campaign and continued that. Heather Humphreys, I thought, started pretty well with the sort of appeal to the I'm of the centre ground, she said, kind of painting Catherine Connolly as on the far left, and she used the word far left and had a very good answer at the end, but the bit in the middle, I think, where the questions became a bit more specific, I think she struggled pretty significantly. So, I wouldn't quite score it a 1-1 draw, but maybe, not much beyond that.
And I guess the thing is, given what the opinion polls are telling us, Heather Humphreys really needed to win and win big.
Win big and have some sort of game changer moment. And I know there was a lot of talk about game changers as the campaign rolled on. And who would have thought that we would only have two candidates even a month ago? And there was no game changer tonight. This wasn't the front line of 2011. Notwithstanding Miriam and Sarah's best efforts, it was a bit dull. I was quite struck at the beginning when Sarah said, "Oh, we want you to interact." The first time Heather Humphreys interacted, Catherine Connolly said, "I didn't interrupt you."
They made a decision, didn't they?
And that didn't seem to stop any sort of natural interaction, which I think then a lot of the viewers would have found it a bit of a tough watch.
We did learn one thing, did we not? Is that Heather Humphreys appointing a council of youth, not news?
No, she did say that once before.
Okay, she said that before. I mean, there is already a National Youth Council.
So
I did wonder what the difference would be with the National Youth Council.
But it was one idea. I mean, there was a lot of topics that we have, and maybe we'll go through them in a moment. There was a lot of topics that we've heard before, and we've done debates, you've done the one-on-one interviews, Katie. So a lot of this material has been out, and people may. I mean, I know there's this thing in politics. By the time the journalists are sick of hearing the line, it's just about getting through to the public. But Mother of God, we've listened to a lot of this stuff already.
Yeah, we have. As you say, the controversies, if you can call them that at this stage, the IRG controversy, the Lucia O'Farrell controversy, the Syria issue. We've been there. Fox hunting. Foxes, I think, were the big losers tonight.
Both candidates
because both candidates seem to be down on foxes, but Catherine Connolly said she'd like to see them dealt with in a more humane way, the fox numbers controlled. I mean, what was clear was the more composed person there tonight was Catherine Connolly. I don't think you could argue against that. Heather Humphreys did have her moments. As you say, Gary, she ended with a strong, when she was asked for her regret, and that's felt very heartfelt. And when it went to Catherine Connolly, then she regretted having gone along with the thing that Heather Humphreys regretted, which was the COVID restrictions around people, the people who were with people who were dying.
I thought Catherine Connolly had that Heather Humphreys had two particularly strong moments. One was at the very, very beginning when she immediately addressed the City West situation, which is unfolding as we're still on air, and then at the end. Very
presidential, actually, I thought, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And also, I think she had a bit of a purple patch as well around, I think, the IRG issue, because again, it sounded like she was speaking with conviction there when she was talking about, that rehabilitation. That Dáil Éireann isn't the place that you rehabilitate somebody who has been convicted by the Special Criminal Court. That was a moment, but again, that they were just moments over a long debate where she did struggle many times. I think one thing, sorry for one thing I want to say, the most extraordinary thing that if you were kind of even half listening, you would have noticed is that Catherine Connolly speaks about being president in the present tense.
With great
as if
definition.
I look forward to serving as president.
I look
was
forward
one of the
to
first
When I
serving
am
as-
president, constantly that positive kind of.
Well, look, the opinion polls would suggest that she's probably right.
I mean, one of the dangers, sorry, David, one of the dangers of being so far ahead in the polls is that a slight sort of arrogance can maybe seep into your consciousness, and I don't think Catherine Connolly suffered from that tonight, but the use of the present tense was very instructive, I thought. And then at the end, she was sorry she agreed with the government's proposal, which must be sort of inimical to everything she believes, because people who've been following Catherine Connolly's career a long time, like I have, and others would say, I can't think of one policy, one government policy she's ever agreed with. So I think it was an odd one, but she's not for turning on Irigi, she's not for turning on Syria, she's not for turning on literally anything. Credit institutions, wasn't that the word she used? She didn't use the word
Yes.
banks.
Yeah.
Great. So
Yeah.
it was very interesting. But so I wouldn't say she was arrogant, but there was a touch of the leader. You know, I'm a good bit ahead, and I'm not going to lose
But
it.
is
no.
it not that conviction that may be scoring well for her in the polls? That she is somebody who sticks to the line and appears to have conviction.
But in terms of the no regret, I did think that was an interesting question actually at the end. Is
it
there
was a very
what have you
interesting
done? Is there something you do regret? And given that Catherine Connolly's the whole way she has run this campaign is to stand by no matter what people throw and suggest that she should regret, she has expressed, she did it my way and there were no regrets.
And it seems to be working for her.
And it seems to be working. And so it was an interesting when she was actually faced with having to come up with the one regret it was that one time that she had actually supported a government
Okay,
regulation.
let's go through maybe some of the sections. I mean, the first question was why you would make a better president than the other candidate. So it's really putting it up to the two of them to try and stake out ground. Heather Humphreys, I'm centre ground, middle of the road, like most Irish people. Catherine Connolly, I look forward to serving as president. Care, compassion,
solidarity.
Solidarity.
And I will do it both in Irish and in English.
Yeah,
Getting
so
the dig in.
she had a bit of a go at Heather Humphreys.
But one of the critical points I thought there, David, was when she said, I stand for a different type of Ireland. And that has summed up the type of dichotomy here that Catherine Connolly is clearly the anti-government candidate and Heather Humphreys has become the government
She
candidate.
said that
and
Heather is more of the same.
Yeah, and there doesn't seem to be any way for Heather Humphreys to sort of counteract this difficulty.
Is part of that because there's only two candidates left in the field, so
no,
therefore it
but
has become that?
I think very much so, and I think that is the, and that's why Heather Humphreys has struggled. I think over the course of the debates, the last one, thankfully, I think for her was tonight because she looked nervous. Even at the beginning, I thought it was a good start, but it was very nervously sort of said. There was no great fluency to it, and it didn't get much better for her, I think.
Yeah, I think when they're raking over the coals of this, a lot of questions will be asked about that decision to whip the Fine Gael councillors into blocking other contenders and the kind of soft whipping, you could call it, of the Fianna Fáil councillors, and whether they would have fared much better if there were a few others in the.
You would have needed a crystal ball to forecast that, I guess, and probably at the time the calculation was, why in the name of goodness would we help somebody else get in the race against our candidate? As it turns out, it probably would have helped them. But
You know, one of the things that struck me in that section where Heather Humphreys went after Catherine Connolly for representing the banks as a barrister. And Catherine Connolly said at one point, she said, we must never identify, barristers must not be identified with their clients. These cases happen in open court. You are clearly identifiable with your client. And her explanations around that, I'm not sure it will land with voters, but it doesn't really hold water when you consider that these cases are held in open court.
Another section that they discussed was about foreign policy, and obviously this is something's broken.
Something's gone bump in the night.
I wonder, is there someone in the Fine Gael campaign?
Yeah, that's the perils of being backstage after a debate like that. But foreign policy was interesting because I think a lot of Catherine Connolly's appeal is based on her stance on Gaza, particularly with younger voters. I mean, not to focus entirely on that, but it started off with talking about Europe, and Heather Humphreys has this line that I am pro-European and everything, and rather cleverly, I can't remember whether it was Sarah or Miriam asked her. Well,
it was Miriam.
Have you ever said anything critical about the EU? And Heather Humphreys was not able to provide an answer.
And it went on for some time with Miriam saying rather balefully, anything?
Yeah. Like if Heather Humphreys' strongest moment was that COVID piece at the end, I thought that was her weakest moment because it was such a simple question about something she was insisting she had done.
And then Sarah was asking Catherine Connolly about if you met President Trump, as you would be likely to do if and when you are president, would you tell him to his face that he had enabled genocide? And Catherine Connolly, quite rightly, said no, not not unless it was on the agenda, which it was very unlikely to be. So she's accepting that as a figurehead, president, symbolic head of state, she wouldn't actually be in a position to pursue that particular line of conversation with Donald Trump, which is kind of interesting.
It's interesting, and she did say being out in the. She said, as she has reminded us many times, she has been canvassing since July. She's been listening to the people, and she said the people just want to be heard. She said that people understand that there's no confusion here between the role of a politician and the role of a president. And I wonder if that's entirely.
I would wonder that as well.
Accurate.
Yeah. I wonder would many of her supporters say be a bit disappointed with that answer, that it was a bit evasive when she said, it's all speculative, as if for some reason you can't question me on this. But then I think those sort of red meat supporters have nowhere else to go. I mean, they're not going to go to her, so it's probably not going to harm her. And on Heather Humphreys and the EU, I mean, just off the top of my head, if you're in Fine Gael, you could have said, look, when the bailout came in, or not the bailout, the bailout in 2011, I mean, the EU was pretty hardball with us, and we could have got a better interest rate, something like that, which they've just thought off now would have been a better answer than
we should have run, Gary.
She said something I have spoken up possibly about over-regulation, which didn't
say in
but also at the cabinet table, not in public.
Now, the Shane O'Farrell story is one that has been difficult for her throughout the campaign, and basically, if people haven't been following it, Shane O'Farrell was knocked down off his bike and killed by a hit-and-run driver who should have been in prison at the time. Terrible, terrible case. His mother, Lucia, one of the most impressive people I have ever met, ever interviewed. She really is. Campaigned for, I think it was 14 years until she got a state apology. And during all of that time, or almost all of that time, Heather Humphreys was her local TD, and during 10 years of it, she was at the cabinet table. And Lucia O'Farrell very clearly feels that Heather Humphreys did not do enough for her. And Heather Humphreys has been challenged on this right the way through the campaign, and her answer up until very recently was, I am sorry if Lucia O'Farrell feels that I didn't do enough for her. It is now changed to, I am sorry I couldn't deliver
that I wasn't able to deliver. Yeah, I'm sorry. And she almost did slip back into because she was pressing it a number of times and almost said the if, but stopped herself. I think that was a difficult.
Do you think how it closed would maybe the most difficult when Miriam said, do you think you failed her? And she repeated that line, I did my best.
Yeah.
And especially in a country where we're so obsessed with the so-called link between the local TD and their constituent. And what could be more important to a constituent than the tragic death of their son, and not to even meet her. And then to say, look, we got correspondence and I sent it to Minister Flanagan and I sent it to Minister Shatter. Anyone could do that in your office. So, I mean, it is a difficult moment for her, and it just, I don't know, has it doomed her campaign, but I think it's obviously very.
Do you think she gets any marks for actually changing her position and coming around to saying that she is sorry?
I'd say it's too late.
Too late, yeah. What about fox hunting? How does that play? Because she was, it's a rural pursuit, apparently.
Well, if you had a drinking game and you were going to hit it for every, we would be in serious trouble.
I mean, if fox hunting, there is a cohort of people that will vote about that on the basis of that. On both sides of the issue, I presume, and she's obviously trying to nail down the rural vote.
I would say the rural vote might be a bit more exercised about hare coursing. I would say the fox hunting fraternity would be minority enough now.
They'd be pretty Fine Gael, but
in terms of,
I'd probably spend most time in the country out of any of us sitting here. And I don't know anyone
Me
down
anyway, Fran.
Yeah, exactly.
And me.
I don't know anyone down the country who is thinking about fox hunting. I know people who maybe oppose it and are quite active in that area. I'm not sure how big a vote getter or loser this will be.
I think there is a thing where, and the Healy Rays, you'd be astonished to hear, make a lot of hay with it in terms of the likes of hare coursing, and though that would be considered more a kind of the plain man of Ireland's sport.
But it'd be the thin end of the way.
I mean, it was a kind of
but-
sorry. It was a kind of an appeal to rural Ireland.
Yeah,
that
it
I
was
have your back. I mean, it
certainly,
did become wearying, like rural pursuits. I mean, she must have mentioned it 8 times.
It's
but
part
it
of our heritage, Gary.
perhaps, or so I'm told. Not my heritage. But my point is that I wonder, is it a desperate attempt to shore up the rural vote?
Yeah, well, we're in the final stage of the campaign, so I suppose you have to shore up whatever you can.
What about the Syria section?
I thought for Catherine Connolly, it was the most unconvincing part. I mean, this explanation that this man just appeared on the scene, we didn't know who was there. People were coming in and out of the group.
Also, she kept on mentioning that the Taoiseach, when he was Minister for Foreign Affairs, met Bashar al-Assad. But of course, that was before the civil war.
Different time.
Different times.
And I thought she struggled a bit when Miriam asked her, well, what facts? I think the facts were pretty well known, and they were going into a terribly grim place. But
it was all right because Maureen O'Sullivan was with her.
I wish Catherine Connolly keeps telling us that no one mentions Maureen O'Sullivan. Well, I'm sure when Catherine looks back at this campaign, and if she ever does listen back to any of her appearances, she mentions her all the time. No, it is a difficult issue, but I tend to think people have it sort of factored in already. But it does beg the question, if you didn't know who you were going to meet and you were going to Syria, well, why would you go at all?
And we still do not know the name of the person who actually organised that trip.
private
Tonight we heard
citizen,
a private citizen who had organised these trips to the occupied territories in the past.
Yeah, I also think that Miriam McCullagh asked a question. Did you ask who would be showing you around? And on a fact-finding mission to a place like Syria, that's a pretty important fact to know. And all of those questions were framed around naivety and were you naive? And she insisted
She was having none of it.
there was no naivety on my
And
part.
she also put in a strong defence on the Erigi thing, which is her signing into the Dáil and employing of a woman who'd been convicted by the Special Criminal Court of Arms Offences and was a member at one stage of Erigi. And she said something that struck me as a little bit odd. She said that once you signed somebody in to the Dáil, they had to stay with you all the time, and that this woman was with her.
You worked there for
all
over
the
a
time.
decade.
I did, and that wouldn't.
I worked there
yeah,
for
and
about the same amount
I've
of
been in
time.
and out of it for a long time. That would
I
be...
think once you have your pass,
You can move around. No, you can't walk into the Dáil chamber
No.
and maybe down to parliamentary party offices,
No.
but you can generally move freely around.
Yeah,
But
so-
again, is that a detail that's going to really matter?
No.
Yeah.
No,
That is an ultimate beltway line, actually, I would say. There was a section on Irish,
There was,
which was...
toe curlingly embarrassing
it
for Heather Humphreys, really, because she was Minister for the Gaeltacht. She promised to learn Irish and she didn't. So the question was asked: how can we believe that you when you say you will now? And
Catherine Connolly, I thought, had a good moment there when she said that she wouldn't criticise Heather Humphreys, but then of course she did say that the president should be
Yes,
able
yes,
to use the language.
Use the
and then
language,
say, "No, I'm not
exactly.
using that," and pointing at Heather Humphreys.
And she produced the prop, the ultimate prop for a
Bunrock was
presidential
taken
debate.
out. Yeah.
The copy of the Constitution.
Yeah. So they were asked about who they'd appoint to the Council of State, and I don't think we're any the wiser from either of them.
No, but I thought it was interesting that Catherine Connolly was a bit more specific when she said there are 7 people, where Heather was very sort of vague and general about the whole thing.
That'd be the barrister now.
Well,
coming out now.
she's just she has read the section in the Constitution, so she knows that there are 7 presidential appointees. But we all know that, but I'm sure Heather Humphreys knows that, but perhaps the viewers wouldn't know that particular detail.
But I just thought it was a kind of a specific touch that Catherine Connolly had sort of throughout debate, that she seemed a bit stronger on the
she's been thinking about it.
The specifics than Heather
detail.
Humphreys has been. That's how I kind of viewed this whole debate. That Catherine was a bit stronger on the specifics, and Heather was a bit just not at maybe the pitch of where she should have been in a race where she is, leave the polls like so far behind, as if it's going to be a bit of a struggle to get anywhere close.
Okay, Gary. So give us your high point and low point for each of them?
I thought the best bit for Heather Humphreys certainly was the issue at the end about humility and a mistake. And I think that would have resonated with a lot of people who, lost loved ones in COVID. But I mean, it was excruciating to hear her tell Miriam and Sarah that about the EU. I thought that was a pretty low moment. And it's difficult, I think, to see what's the best moment for Catherine Connolly, because she has this extraordinary sort of steadiness about her. But the stuff in the Irish language, I think, will have enthused those who are of that disposition. She's struggled a bit on Syria. But when I watch her, and I have watched her pretty closely now, I don't ever see any great sort of highs. That there's a tremendous steadiness about her, which is maybe what people want in their president.
Steady as you go, indeed. And when you're in the lead, according to the polls, steady as you go is what you want, really, isn't it? Yeah. Listen, Gary, your analysis, as ever, has been excellent. And I look forward to talking to you at length, I suspect, on Saturday when we're doing the presidential election count. But
thanks,
Gary is going to
slip
out away.
Bye, Gary.
For someone far more important.
For two people that are far more important, I'm going to move me
as we move some mics and make some room.
Comfy.
Hello. We're sharing mics. Sarah
hello.
McNulty, how are you? Hello. And here comes Maria McCullagh. Tired, none?
Now, for those of you who aren't watching, we are joined by Sarah McInerney and by Miriam O'Callaghan, who have just moderated an hour and 10 minutes, was it, something like that, of a debate. And how are you feeling, guys?
Good. I'm glad it's over, because I was listening to you a little earlier on and you were saying, a lot of the same issues were raised. And I think that was one of the big challenges, trying to prepare for it, is trying to figure out what are we going to ask them that they haven't been asked 5 million times already over the last couple of weeks. And I'm not sure, we managed to ask them some things that they haven't been asked 5 million times, but at least, you're conscious that there's a lot of people who are not watching this with the same intensity or attention that we are, including my husband, for example, who texted me going, wow, I didn't know that, or oh my God, I can't believe she just said that, or who genuinely didn't realise, so hopefully at least for those people it brought out some of the issues.
Yeah. And Miriam, I mean, you obviously, both of you were getting at them on different questions, different subjects, just trying to get a straight answer and everything. And as we all know, sometimes with politicians and political candidates, that's not so easy.
Yeah, sometimes they just don't answer the question. Because I suppose even at the beginning when I was trying to get, say, Heather to answer about Europe when she'd ever been critical, to give me an example. But actually then you realise you have to also time it. So you have to be really fair. That's why at the end I had to say that she needed more time. So once they don't answer a question, I think you just need to move on. And we knew our sections. And again, I think Catherine, similarly, a lot of the time she didn't answer the question, but you can't be there all day.
You can't pursue it. Yeah, that's they also seem, we were just saying earlier, to have made a decision not to engage directly. And Catherine Connolly shut that down really quickly.
Despite you actually making it very clear that that's what you wanted at the start.
Yeah, Miriam actually said that, I think it was when we got a chance to talk at the break.
During the break.
Yeah, that when Catherine said, I didn't interrupt you, that was like, they're not going to interrupt each other, so therefore we're not going to get the engagement.
What was the atmosphere in there? What were they? Was there nerves?
I think they were nervous, but I thought it was actually quite pleasant, did you?
I thought it was pretty tense.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did.
You always see the best.
She does. She really does. No, I thought it was pretty tense, and they were tired, and tense.
Both of which are completely understandable.
Yeah, completely understandable. Yeah, completely understandable.
Because those debates aren't for the faint-hearted.
Yeah.
I think that's true. You've all done them as well. They're quite stressful.
It only took one of me to do 6 candidates in the last presidential election.
Shots
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Well, on that, it only took one of me to do 7 candidates in 2011. I up yours. But they're stressful.
Do I?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, you the ultimate.
10. I think I win this. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
And then when it was over, what was the
They
sense?
shook hands immediately. Did you notice
Yeah,
that?
they
And
did.
actually, they said to us, I think they both said we thought that was fair. Do you remember we spoke to them?
Yeah. They seemed happy enough,
yeah.
and relieved and sort of, like a way to
That's
be
kind
lifted
of
off.
it now, isn't it, for the big set
is,
pieces,
yeah,
so that they can literally breathe.
Yeah. And the great thing is, you didn't break the presidential election.
Yes.
So well done to both of you.
Thank you very much.
You must be relieved, though, that it's over. Are you?
I think I said to I find them, I don't know what you will find, I find them very stressful.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because you just, mostly for those people, and I also think you want to be fair. They must be really nervous. It's a big stakes for them. And it's important for us to just be fair.
Yeah.
And I think we did that. You know, sometimes go,
absolutely.
yeah, I think.
I mean, they both got their
Yeah.
chance to reply and everything, and I don't think anybody could feel
Yeah.
that there's anything. But listen, well done.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, but we're going to leave it there. And thanks to Sarah and to Miriam. Thanks to Gary Murphy earlier. And thanks to you for listening to us or watching us even. Good night.